My name is Sophia Martinez, and this is the story of how my love for baking revealed the true ingredients of success and uncovered the bitter taste of prejudice within my husband's elite family. For 3 years, I led a double life. By day, I ran a cozy neighborhood bakery, kneading dough and greeting regulars with warm smiles. By night, I oversaw one of the country's most successful restaurant empires, quietly expanding an empire built on my grandmother's recipes. I met James Winchester at one of my bakery's sidewalk tables. Unlike his family, he was genuine, kind, and refreshingly unpretentious. When he casually mentioned that his family owned the prestigious Winchester Financial Group, I nearly dropped my piping bag. But James wasn't like the wealthy snobs I had encountered before. He appreciated my cinnamon rolls just as much as the Michelin-starred restaurants his family frequented. What James didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had already built my own empire. A decade earlier, I had founded Bellina, an authentic Italian restaurant chain, using a small loan and my grandmother's cherished recipes. Over the years, I had grown it to 30 locations across the country, carefully maintaining the intimate charm that made it famous. I had deliberately kept my name out of the press, operating everything through a holding company. My focus had always been on quality, not personal recognition. Then came the wedding, and with it, the endless condescension. James's mother, Victoria, was particularly relentless. To her, my bakery was nothing more than a quaint little hobby. Every family gathering was the same. "Darling," she would say, swirling her wine glass, "now that you're a Winchester, surely you'll give up that little shop. It's hardly fitting for our family's image." I'd smile and change the subject, while silently reviewing expansion plans for Bellina's newest location. The irony? The Winchesters were loyal patrons of my restaurants. Victoria, in particular, adored hosting business dinners at our flagship location, boasting about her personal connection to the mysterious owner. Then came Thanksgiving. The Winchester mansion gleamed under crystal chandeliers as Victoria, in rare form, dominated the conversation. Fresh from organizing a charity gala at Bella Cusina, Bellina's most exclusive location, she gushed about the event. "The owner is simply elusive, so refined," she cooed. "That's real class, unlike certain businesses that advertise on sidewalk chalkboards." She glanced at me with a smirk. I kept my gaze on my plate, thinking about the international expansion contract I had signed that morning. "Mother," James warned. But Victoria was just getting started. "We're discussing a culinary empire here, Sophia," she continued. "This is what a real business looks like, not some little bakery selling cupcakes to children." James's father, Richard, nodded. "The restaurant industry is complex, Sophia. It requires sophistication, capital, connections, things that come with proper breeding and education." I felt James tense beside me, but I gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. I had endured these jabs for years. Besides, I had something else on my mind, tomorrow's major announcement about Bellina's next chapter. Then, Amanda, James's sister, delivered the final blow. "Well, at least we won't have to hear any more bakery talk at these gatherings," she said breezily. "Let's keep the conversation to real businesses, shall we?" Laughter rippled through the table. James started to protest, but I had heard enough. 3 years of biting my tongue, 3 years of watching them worship Bella Cusina while looking down on me, 3 years of hiding the truth. I picked up my phone and sent a message I had been holding on to for months. Across the city, my executive team would now implement Protocol Winchester, a plan designed for this exact moment. "You're right, Amanda," I said, rising from my seat. "Let's talk about real business. In fact, why don't we continue this discussion over brunch tomorrow? Bella Cusina's owner's private dining room should be perfect." Victoria's eyes sparkled. "Oh, Sophia, you can't just book the owner's private room. It's invitation only." I smiled, grabbing my purse. "Trust me, we have a table." As I walked out, leaving a stunned room behind and a smirking James, who had discovered my secret months ago and had been waiting for this moment, I knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow's brunch would be the most satisfying meal Bella Cusina had ever served. After all, some dishes are best served cold. I'm Victoria Winchester. "Ah, yes, Mrs. Winchester." Thomas, my longtime maitre d', kept his expression neutral. "Please, follow me to the owner's private dining room." He led them through the main dining area, past the wine cellar I had spent years curating, and up the grand staircase to the private floor. As they passed, James, who had arrived separately to witness the moment, caught my eye. The subtle smile tugging at his lips told me he was enjoying this as much as I was. The private dining room was my sanctuary. Framed photos of every Bella Cusina location lined the walls, interspersed with industry awards and, most importantly, a large portrait of my grandmother in her original restaurant in Naples. Victoria's gaze immediately landed on the empty chair at the head of the table. "Will the owner be joining us soon?" she asked, smoothing down her oak-colored blouse. "The owner is already here," I said, stepping from the shadows. Silence fell over the room like a curtain. Victoria's face cycled through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and, finally, something bordering on horror. Richard's designer glasses slipped from his fingers, clattering onto the table. Amanda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "This must be some kind of joke," Victoria finally said. You run a bakery." I smiled and slid into the chair at the head of the table. "I run several businesses, actually. Bella Cusina is just the most well-known." With the press of a button, a screen descended from the ceiling, displaying the restaurant chain's financials: 30 locations nationwide, over $300 million in annual revenue, and an imminent international expansion. "Impossible," Richard whispered, but his banker's instincts had already kicked in, his eyes scanning the numbers, recognizing the undeniable truth. I leaned forward. "Let me tell you a story," I said, nodding to the staff to begin serving brunch. "It starts in my grandmother's kitchen in Naples, where I learned that great food isn't just about ingredients, it's about heart, family, and tradition." As each course arrived, I explained its significance: the bread, my grandmother's original recipe; the pasta, the first dish I ever mastered as a child; the main course, the signature dish that had launched Bella Cusina's success. 10 years ago, I took those recipes and a dream and built something extraordinary. The bakery came later, a passion project that let me stay connected to my roots, to my community. Victoria stared at her untouched plate. "All those times I bragged about knowing the owner," she murmured. "You did know me," I said softly, "you just never thought I was worth knowing." James reached for my hand, his grip warm, reassuring. He had uncovered my secret 6 months ago, walking into my office expecting a meeting, only to find out his wife had built an empire. Instead of feeling betrayed, he had been impressed, and, judging by his smirk, thoroughly entertained by his family's ignorance. "But why keep it a secret?" Amanda asked, her earlier disdain replaced by quiet curiosity. "Because success isn't about being seen," I replied, "it's about building something that matters." Every anniversary dinner celebrated in my restaurants, every critic who praises our authenticity, every time your mother bragged about our service, that meant more to me than personal recognition. Just then, Thomas appeared at my side, an envelope in hand. "The papers you requested, Mrs. Martinez Winchester." I slid the documents across the table toward Victoria and Richard. "This is why I invited you here today. Bella Cusina is expanding internationally, and we're looking for investors. Winchester Financial Group has the first right of refusal." Richard's hands trembled as he scanned the proposal. The projected returns were staggering. Victoria's face had paled to an almost ghostly shade. "You're offering us a stake?" she asked, voice thin, "after the way we've treated you?" I stood, walking to my grandmother's portrait, running a finger over the gilded frame. "You once told me that the restaurant industry requires sophistication, connections, and capital," I said, turning back to face them. "You were wrong. It requires passion, integrity, and vision." I let the words settle before offering them one final truth. "But it also requires the ability to recognize opportunities, especially when they come in unexpected packages." The family sat in stunned silence, the weight of their misjudgment heavy in the air. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I was giving them a choice. I nodded to the staff, signaling for the final course to be served, a perfect tiramisu, crafted from my grandmother's cherished recipe. "The real question is," I said, settling back into my seat, "are you ready to be part of a real business?" The tension in the room was thick, the kind you could carve with one of our handmade bread knives. But this moment wasn't about revenge, it wasn't about proving them wrong. What happened next would shape not only our family's future but the legacy of everything I had built. Victoria Winchester stared at the dessert before her, the very tiramisu she had raved about for years, never knowing it came from the woman she had dismissed as a mere baker. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft clink of silverware as James took a bite, his expression unreadable, though the small smile tugging at his lips gave him away. All this time, Richard finally spoke, his banker's composure faltering. "We've been giving you business advice, and you were," he gestured helplessly at the report spread before him. "Building an empire," I finished. "Yes," I exhaled slowly, steady, "but today isn't about embarrassing you, it's about moving forward, as a family and, perhaps, as business partners." I pressed another button, the screen shifted to a new presentation, architectural renderings of upcoming Bella Cusina locations in London, Paris, and Tokyo, market analyses, profit projections, expansion strategies. "This international rollout will require strategic investment," I explained. "Winchester Financial Group has the global network we need." I met each of their gazes in turn. "But any partnership would require something more, something personal, a shift in how we see and treat each other." Victoria set her spoon down carefully, her hands trembling slightly. "Why even offer us this opportunity, after how we treated you?" I thought of my grandmother, of the long hours in her tiny kitchen, of the lessons she had passed down, not just about food, but about resilience, love, and forgiveness. "Because success without family to share it with feels empty," I said softly, "and because the greatest victory isn't proving people wrong, it's giving them a chance to prove themselves right." A quiet chuckle broke the tension. Amanda, of all people, laughed, not her usual polite, restrained society laugh, but something real, full-bodied, unguarded. "All those times we lectured you about business," she said between chuckles, "and you were probably calculating international market penetration in your head." Her laughter was contagious. Even Victoria let out a breathy chuckle, though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Richard, however, was still scanning the reports, his expression shifting from disbelief to something resembling admiration. "These numbers," he murmured, almost to himself, "your profit margins, your year-over-year growth. And you did all this without outside investors?" I nodded. Every Bella Cusina location was built on reinvested profits, no loans, no venture capital, just good food, smart business, and my grandmother's recipes. Victoria's voice was quiet when she finally spoke. "And the bakery, why keep it, when you have all of this?" I smiled, thinking of the scent of fresh bread at dawn, of children pressing their noses against the glass display case, of the simple joy of flour-dusted hands. "The bakery keeps me grounded," I said. "It reminds me why I started all of this, not for profit, but for passion. Every cupcake I sell there means just as much to me as every 5-star review Bella Cusina receives." James reached for my hand, squeezing gently. "That's what I fell in love with," he said, his gaze shifting to his family, "not the success, which I didn't even know about, but the passion, the authenticity. Everything you dismissed was exactly what made this possible." The next few hours transformed our family in ways I never could have imagined. Richard, the meticulous banker, finally saw me as an equal. We spent the afternoon deep in discussion, debating global expansion strategies, his skepticism giving way to genuine enthusiasm. Amanda, with her sharp marketing mind, immediately began brainstorming branding ideas for the international launch. And Victoria? She made an unexpected request. "I want to learn how to bake," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I want to understand, not just the business, but how you built all this, from flour and sugar and dreams." Over the next year, everything changed. The Winchester Financial Group became a key partner in Bella Cusina's global expansion, but more importantly, our family changed. Victoria started spending Wednesday mornings at my bakery, struggling through her first batches of croissants, slowly coming to understand that there is no such thing as just a baker. Richard stopped talking about pedigree and started talking about passion as the true foundation of success. Today, Bella Cusina has 50 locations worldwide. The original flagship restaurant now boasts a wall of photos, including one of Victoria, proudly holding her first successfully baked biscotti. The bakery still opens at dawn, and at least once a week, I'm there, covered in flour, still connected to the dream that started it all. Last month, at the grand opening of our Paris location, Victoria stood beside me as I cut the ribbon. "I was so wrong," she whispered, Success isn't about appearances or connections, it's about having the courage to pursue your passion, even when others don't see it. I squeezed her hand, our journey flashing before my eyes. Sometimes, I said, the greatest success isn't proving people wrong, it's giving them the chance to change. James watched us with quiet amusement, no doubt remembering that Thanksgiving dinner that set everything in motion. These days, family gatherings are different. We still talk about business, but now, Victoria insists that everyone try her latest baking experiment. Richard discusses investment strategies while kneading dough. Amanda's marketing presentations are often interrupted by impromptu cooking lessons. And me? I run my empire, but I still wake up early, roll up my sleeves, and bake. Because success isn't about choosing between being small or being great, it's about staying true to what you love while staying open to what life brings, including the possibility that those who once doubted you may someday stand beside you, finally seeing what was there all along. After all, the best recipes, like the best success stories, aren't just about the ingredients. They're about how everything comes together in the end.